Welcome to another episode of the Chief Audit Executive Briefing. Hey, this week I was talking to some of the members in the Chief Audit Executive Forum. And, besides talking about some of the things that we normally talk about, like independence and reporting relationships and some of the things that are going on, how to deal with the external auditor, we were also talking about year-end planning. And I wanted to share something with everybody out there. There's some companies that are actually taking what I think is actually a great approach in their year-end planning, or their planning for next year. A lot of you are probably going through this depending on what your year end is, but a lot of audit shops kind of run from a January to January timeframe. So that means many of you are probably in the process of planning for next year. And here's the little tip for you. Most of the time we come up with the audit engagements that we're going to do, and then we go out and we assign people to that, and kind of schedule those out for the year and say, hey, you're going to work on this, you're going to work on that. Here's the great idea. You actually allow your staff to get involved and let them provide input into which audits this next year they would actually like to work on. So one of the ways to do it, you can think of it if you're into fantasy football or some different things like that, where people essentially get to bid or kind of put in for which of those audits they would like to work for. So one of the ways it works really good, you decide, as the Chief Audit Executive, who is going to be the lead on that particular project, but then allow others in your team to kind of vote on which ones they would like to be a part of. And you can do it in some different ways, right? So for example, when my son was in the military, in the Army, when they would transfer, he would get the opportunity to put in kind of his top 3 places he would like to go. Okay. And so what they would do then is decide if, one of those top 3 was available. If it was, that was the location that he would get sent to. If they were not available, if they were already full, then he ended up getting shipped somewhere else instead. Okay. But what this does, it's a great idea because it allows your team to provide input. And, they know what they would like to do. We can't read their minds. And so a lot of times actually allowing them to do this, it ends up increasing or improving the culture in your team. And it helps make sure that, you're not going to end up having the same audit team going out all the time. You're mixing it up more, and you're allowing people to kind of develop in the areas that they would like to. So I think that's a great idea. So if you're not already completely done with your planning, I would suggest that you try to incorporate something like that into your planning so that you allow your team to give you input on where they would like to go and what they would like to develop professionally. Now, the second thing that I wanted to share with you this week as well is we're into the month of December. And December is one of those crazy months where it's either super busy or there's also these pauses in times where it's kind of dead. And so December is a great time to do a little R&R. Now, again, from a military background, the soldiers would go off to what they called R&R, which stood for, rest and relaxation, or rest and recuperation. But I'd like to put a little twist on that, okay? We all need a little R&R at the end of the year, but the R&R is we need some rest and we need reflection. And here's the reason. We learn a lot in the classroom, but we learn more when we actually take that information and then go out and try to, do it, actually implement it and learn through experience. But what I've found is often the greatest learning happens when we're reflecting, right? So we've learned it, we've done it, now we're reflecting on what went well, what did not go well. That's where a lot of the real learning comes in. So during this time, again, hopefully many of you are taking some time off from work, but I would suggest that you plan some rest and reflection. So take some time, block out some time in your calendar, whether you're going to be in the office or if you're not, to where you can actually, first off, get caught up on your rest so that you're not so tired, because it's important to recharge our batteries. If we're going to show up and be the kind of executive that we need to be when we're at work, we have to take care of our health and rest as well. The reflection side, again, over this break, do some things you normally may not do. Go buy a book, read a book. It could be, whatever, excuse me, something that you maybe normally don't do. So it doesn't necessarily have to be for business. In fact, I've got a book over on my shelf here. It's a Charles Bukowski book that I've been wanting to read for a while. Guess what I'm doing over the holiday break? I'm reading that book. Is one of the books that I'm going to be reading over that time. So take time, maybe read a book, catch up or listen to some podcasts. Do something that's actually helping to feed you as well, and take time to help you recharge during this time. That could also be an online training or something else that you've been wanting to do for a while. One of the things that I've liked, and you can see that up over there on the wall, is every so often I like to paint. So that's actually a painting that I did this last summer, or a little bit before that. Anyway, in one of my R&R periods, I actually took some time to go ahead and do some painting as well. So with that, I know this one's been a little bit longer, but again, those couple of things, think about how you can start incorporating your team more into the planning, allow them to provide more input maybe on which projects they would like to work on in the coming year, and then make sure to take some time for rest and reflection during this holiday period. So with that, my friends, have a fabulous rest of your week, and I'll talk to you next week.